Live in 5, 4, 3.
Good evening and welcome to the North Idaho College Board of Trustees meeting here on January 19th, 2022. We will verify a quorum. Mr. Lyons, if you would please.
Mr. Chairman, all of the trustees are here.
Thank you. Would everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes. Are there any questions or comments, corrections, or revisions of the minutes from December 15th or from January 5th? We have two sets of minutes. Anybody? Okay. Anything on that? Okay. Not seeing any. We will accept the minutes as presented. Next up on the agenda is public comment. I have three individuals that have signed up for public comment. The first is Cynthia Elliott, and she's addressing tab 3 under new business, the trustee zone 5 vacancy. Cynthia.
Hello, North Idaho College trustees. I encourage you to show priority, expedience, and transparency in the process of filling the Zone 5 vacancy so the business of the college can go forward, and to show due diligence in the process of meeting the obligations of NIC's accreditation action plan with the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. Thank you.
All right. Didn't time that one, but I think we're okay. The next one is regarding the letter from the Coeur d'Alene tribe. Judith Hanna, I believe. Is that correct?
My name is Judith Hanna. I've lived in Coeur d'Alene since 1975. I'm a graduate of North Idaho College. My daughter is a graduate of North Idaho College, and my granddaughter is attending as a freshman this year. I referenced the NIC's partnership with the tribe at my last statement, and I am speaking. Now we have 2 minutes, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
To the letter from the tribe, January 7th. And I do see that it's on the agenda, but I would like to express the importance of the board responding to that. And as Director Ken Howard brought up, there was a letter signed by physicians and other members of the medical community that was not responded to. So I would just like to encourage the trustees to respond to the tribe. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And also in regards to the letter from the Coeur d'Alene tribe, I have Mr. Howard Coons.
Chairman Banducci, Trustees Howard, Mckenzie, Wood. I would like to comment on the question of whether or not NIC board should respond to the letter from Chief Allen of the Coeur d'Alene tribe, that letter that was printed in the Coeur d'Alene press and was addressed to this board. The letter expressed grave concern that the accreditation status of NIC is in question. In the first paragraph, Chief Allen states, This situation is unacceptable and also avoidable. That is not true. The situation is not avoidable because NIC's accreditation is already under review by the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. But the situation could have been avoided. The Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations filed complaints with the NWCCU concerning human rights violations by members of this board. The media has provided no specific information regarding what those violations were. If I pound my fist on the table and shout at you, have I violated your human rights? If you feel threatened by me, have I violated your human rights? If the violations reported by the task force were so egregious, why were they not reported to the police to have criminal charges considered? Since the alleged offenses were apparently not criminal in nature, the task force could have written or simply said something like this to the offender. We believe that your behavior does not befit a highly visible representative of North Idaho College. Please act in a more professional manner in the future. If the task force had done that or done nothing, the NWCCU would not have become involved. If NIC loses its accreditation, the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations, which happens to be chaired by a member of this board, is directly responsible for it. Which brings me back to the subject of the letter from the tribe. In the final paragraph, Chief Allen asks the board to confirm that education is your top priority. I don't think it is appropriate for the board to respond to that request because it is misdirected.
Are you almost done, sir? How close are you to being done?
Pardon?
How close are you to being done?
2 more paragraphs.
Oh.
It should,
Can you terminate at the end of the next one? We're over time, sir.
oh, I didn't realize I'd run out of time already. It should have been requested of the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations. They're the ones who have endangered NIC's accreditation. In closing, I want to point out that the Coeur d'Alene Tribe has a relationship with the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations. They are not strangers. It was the task force that was instrumental in having the NIC beach dedicated to the tribe some years ago. The tribe is surely aware that the task force initiated the process which has put NIC's accreditation in jeopardy. So why was the letter addressed to the NIC board and not the task force?
We probably ought to end it there, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One more.
All right. Russ McLean on a redo. Russ, what are you speaking on? Well, I need to have a topic, sir.
A topic, my behavior last meeting. My conduct was a little bit abrupt, and I come to apologize a little bit. You know, Nicole invested all her money with you and successfully paid off her little car and then took the principal and put it in an IRA. We taught her well, you and I. You know, I'm always going to be grateful. I'm just a little disgusted with the way this board is taking the college. And if I was harsh the last time, I just come to apologize a little bit. I didn't mean to call you out like I did, but, you know, I'm always going to be grateful for what we taught Nicole. And I do think the man leaving is a good thing. It was due, and I'm glad that it happened. But, you know, I just like to see you guys get things back on track. And let's make this thing a powerful unit that it can possibly be. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Russ. All right. I believe that concludes public comment tonight. Next on the agenda will be the topic of celebrating success And tonight's going to be an athletics update. Mr. Sean Noel and Mr. Alex Harris. And I see Alex at the podium.
Thank you, Chair Banducci, members of the board, Barrister Lyons, President Sabali. I have the honor of addressing you tonight as the interim dean of students here at NIC. I have addressed you as many other positions, and I'm happy to be here tonight to talk very little. I want to introduce our new athletic director, Sean Noel, who has come to us with much experience, and I don't want to repeat all the times he's been introduced and that experience has been said, just to say my experience in the last 2 months has been a pleasurable one, and Sean brings a lot of talent to the position at NIC, and I'm glad to have him here. So, Sean Noel.
We'll feel like we should clap.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. Good evening, Chair Banducci, Trustees Howard, Mckenzie, Wood, President Sabali, along with other NIC colleagues and North Idaho community members. Like Alex said, my name is Sean Noel. I'm the new Director of Athletics and Recreation here at North Idaho College, and I'm excited to be with you guys tonight to celebrate our athletic accomplishments and success. It'll probably go through the fall semester to where we're at, so I really appreciate the time. I'll start most importantly with our student athletes. I always say that's why I love this job. It's for our students, but in my case, for our student athletes. So they excelled really well this fall semester. We had 95 student athletes earn above a 3.0 GPA. We had 55 student athletes with a 3.3 or above. And we had 15 student athletes with a perfect 4.0, which I think is fabulous. That's really hard to do. So we had 15 student athletes achieve a perfect 4.0. We do have a couple student athletes here from the men's soccer team that made the dean's list. If you guys would stand, I just want to at least, we have a handful here. I wasn't sure if there'd be any restrictions tonight, so I just had a few come. Those are a couple of our dean's members from the men's soccer team, so thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Sean,
Yes,
would
sir.
you remind everybody what that means to be on the dean's list?
Dean's list, if I'm not mistaken, 3.5 GPA or higher in the fall semester, so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but we got people listening, and they may wonder,
Absolutely.
we were talking about different levels there, the
Yes.
3, 3.3, 4, so it's an accomplishment.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you. We had 4 teams in the fall with a GPA above a 3.0. You'll see a little bit of a interesting thing here. So you'll hear one key word I'll say before each one. We had women's golf, women's soccer, softball, I guess I didn't say women's, but, and women's volleyball. So our women's team, overall their team GPAs, they excelled really well. So we got to get our guys going. They do well also, but I just want to congratulate our teams that had a 3.0 above. Some individual team accomplishments on top of that. Men's soccer in the fall had 6 players named to the 2021 NWAC Men's Soccer All-Star Team. Head coach Ken Thompson was named the East Region Coach of the Year. Ken's here, so Ken, if you'd stand up. And it's a great accomplishment, so congratulations, Ken, on that. Women's soccer had 9 players named to the 2021 NWAC Soccer All-Star Team, including the East Region MVP, Emily Stewart. The head women's soccer coach, Kelsey Parsons, was named the East Region Coach of the Year as well. I don't think she's here, but, having 2 coaches named as Coach of the Year is a great accomplishment for us in athletics. Women's volleyball had 5 players named to the 2021 NWAC Volleyball All-Star Game, All-Star Team, excuse me. We'll catch up to kind of what's going on now during the winter. Men's basketball is currently on top of the NWAC East Region standings with a 2-0 record. Conference play just began this semester. They've been playing, but in terms of conference, it just began here in January. Women's basketball is currently 1-1. Wrestling is currently ranked number 6 in the nation in the latest NJCAA poll. Wrestling also has 7 individual wrestlers ranked in the top 10 in their respective weight class at 125, 141, 157, 165, 174, 184, and the heavyweights. So that's a great accomplishment for our wrestling team. Our next home games, I got to give a plug, is this Saturday. It's men's and women's basketball, January 22nd, 2 and 4 p.m. 2 is the women, 4 is the men's. It's against Treasure Valley. Please come out and support your student athletes, your coaches, and most importantly, come root for your Cardinals. And our new NIC athletics website, nicathletics.com. Thank you to Felicia, marketing, communication for their great work in getting that new website up. It's nicathletics.com. That's where you can find the updated schedules, stories, a lot of good things on there. I want to thank you all for your time, and go Cardinals. Thank you.
Sean, would you hold on in case somebody has any questions?
Yeah, yes,
or
sir.
anything? Thank you. I want to give the trustees an opportunity if they have any questions or comments or anything. Anybody? I just wanted to check. Dr. Sabali, do you have something?
Do you get to go home and unpack? Is your stuff here yet?
My stuff comes tomorrow. I got truck number 1 comes tomorrow, so yes. So if anybody wants to help, just kidding. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda are the constituent reports. The first one is ASNIC, Cyrus Vore. Did I get that right? All right.
Hello, hello. Hi, guys. So for those of you that weren't here at the last meeting, my name is Cyrus Vore. I'm the new ASNIC president. I took over Annie's position. So yes, I've got some ASNIC updates for you guys. We haven't done too much as we're only like 2 weeks into the semester, but we are prepping for some awesome things. We have a ton of student events that we're coming out with. One big one we're doing is we're renting out all of Triple Play for NIC, so that's pretty cool. We have a ton of projects we're planning. We have like 10 on the table right now. One where we're building a whole hammocking area for students to go and study at. We're working on academic best practices to make the college even better. We're hoping to add a bunch of classroom decorations to make the campus like more inviting and warm and, very nice. We're also planning a day of service for like a bunch of volunteer activities for the college. And we have an opportunity to go to Chicago in March for a leadership conference. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming our way, and we're really excited for the coming months and finishing out the semester with a bang. I think we got a lot of fun stuff we can get done, and hopefully this will be the most productive ASNIC group we've ever had. So thank you.
Oh, Mr. Chair,
Question, Trustee Wood?
thank you. Thank you, great report. You're full of energy, that's
Thank you.
awesome. Can you tell me a little more about your day of service? What kind of groups are you reaching out to, and what kind of things will your students be trying to do?
So we are very much in the beginning stages of it. We're basically at the point where we have a maybe date where it's going to be like the first or second week of April, and we don't even have like a specific like day of the week or anything like that. But the main idea is that we're going to emphasize like, hey guys, this is a day for you to go out and volunteer. Just a day we'll reach out to all of the NIC and be like, hey, go out there and do something good. And then we as ASNIC will have certain things. We've been mulling over different ideas. And once we come up with some good solid ones, we'd be happy to present them. I'd be happy to contact you, let you know about them. But really, it's a day to go out and do something good. And
Well,
it's a day
that's
to emphasize
fantastic.
doing that. So.
And I would like to just make a quick recommendation. I know some veterans organizations I'm connected to. I'd love to get you that information.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you very much. Any other questions or?
Sorry, I got a frog in my throat.
Totally good.
Any other questions? Excuse me. Thank you, Cyrus.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, Molly, you're next. Oh, goodness.
Thank you, Trustee Banducci, trustees, Dr. Sabali, and community members. Faculty Assembly does not have a lot to report this month. Many of us participated in the NWCCU forums yesterday, which was a fabulous opportunity and a good experience. As far as Faculty Assembly proper, we are going to switch up some of our meeting format and incorporate liberating structures. I worked with Dr. Burns before she left. So it's a technique that we use in an instructional leadership team, and it's a way for us to get more voices heard and get more people in the conversation. So that is our exciting news, and I will stand for questions.
You're off and running. Questions, anyone, comments, anything from Molly? Looks like you get off easy.
All right.
Thank you. You bet. Next is the staff assembly. Sarah Martin.
Good evening, Chair Banducci, Trustee Woods, Dr. Sabali, Mr. Lyons, Trustee Howard, and Trustee Mckenzie, as well as welcome to our community members. Staff Assembly met last week on January 13th. Usual order of business was conducted. Steve Kurtz, the Accreditation Liaison Officer, provided an update to staff and helped answer questions in preparation for the accreditation visit that happened yesterday. We were able to hold our monthly Caption This contest and hear the wonderful stories from our We See You recognition, where we celebrated Lee Hall in the Writing Center and the amazing work that goes on there. Information that was shared by Erin Davis, who is a professor of English and the Writing Center director. She shared this year the Writing Center faculty consultants provided both in-person and online appointments that help student writers from over 29 programs and departments. We also have assisted Charter Academy students with their senior projects and collaborated with Molstead Library to put on an APA and MLA workshops that are open to all of North Idaho higher education students. Next semester, they will be offering a more welcome to the Writing Center meetings for faculty staff to learn about their services and what they do. So look forward to that. The Writing Center is an incredible resource that contributes to the success of the students during their academic journey here at NIC and beyond. We were able to celebrate January's Sterling Silver Award recipient. If you guys haven't heard, the recipient is our very own Shannon Goodrich. Give her a big round of applause. Shannon is always looking for ways to make things and people better. Shannon is smart, caring, and passionate about NIC and its success. You can find more on all of the lovely nominations and submittals about Shannon, all the great things she does on our Sterling Silver website. When we returned from the holiday break, the staff executive team did meet to review the resolution that was drafted and sent out to staff to vote in the first part of December. We received some great feedback on the process and understand that some wanted to have more input on the drafting of the resolution. I do want to give a big thank you to the staff who did volunteer to draft the resolutions in hopes to capture the best, and as best as possible, the current state and feelings of staff. Again, we understand the complexity of the current challenges and understand the very varied views amongst staff. The draft is put out to vote, which concluded with a passing result. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas North Idaho College staff are fully dedicated to working in partnership with NIC Board of Trustees, Interim President Dr. Michael Sabali, and Interim Provost Dr. Cassie Silvas to achieve our shared goal of meeting the diverse educational needs of students and players in the northern Idaho communities of NIC, that NIC serves through a commitment to student success, educational excellence, community engagement, and lifelong learning. Whereas the Board of Trustees, in a statement to the NWCCU that was fully executed when all signatures were finally signed on the document and submitted on May 28th and released to the public, the trustees asserted that they understood the concerns expressed in the complaint received by the NWCCU, which is a subject of the accrediting organization's investigation of NIC's fulfillment of eligibility requirements 7, 9, and 16. and stated that the board is committed to addressing and resolving these concerns. Whereas policy 2.01.05 provides in relevant part that while the board is the college's final policy agent, it will be the practice of the Board of Trustees to utilize the advice of all interested individuals and groups in the solution of its educational and financial concerns. Whereas the NIC Board of Trustees has not yet fulfilled that commitment they made to the NWCCU and the campus community, and there remains continued concern in the community, on campus and beyond, regarding the behaviors of the board. Specifically, staff, faculty, administration, and members of the community have not been included in the decision-making process. Staff and faculty recommendations were disregarded in many of the recent decisions that have had life-changing and institutional impacts on the campus community, some of which we have yet to see the full ripple effects of. Policies previously adopted by the NIC Board of Trustees continue to be violated by the board, and the board continues to overstep its authority regarding the operations of the college. Resolved, the North Idaho College Staff Assembly affirms a vote of no confidence for North Idaho College Board of Trustees and hereby transmits the said resolution to the North Idaho College Board of Trustees. And the North Idaho College Staff Assembly sends this resolution and vote of no confidence in North Idaho College Board of Trustees to the Idaho State Board of Education. This was adopted by vote of the Assembly on December 15th, 2021. And that concludes my report.
All right, are there any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Wood.
Sarah, two things. First of all, your choice, your sterling silver choice, we know her well. She serves us well. Excellent choice, and I'm so glad that your group recognized all of her hard and good work. Congratulations, Shannon. The second thing is obviously the resolution that you just read is very serious. I don't think there's anything more serious for a board to hear than one of our constituent groups on campus has no confidence in our ability as a board. And so I can tell you myself, I'll take your words very seriously, do everything I can to comply with the NWAC accreditation standard, excuse me, NWCCU, too many acronyms. And I'll do everything I can to resolve the issue, and I think it's really important, and we will discuss it later on on the agenda about workshops and moving forward. But please convey to your group how serious I'm taking it.
Thank you, I appreciate it, I will.
I'd just like to say thank you, and I acknowledge and hear your resolution.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is the Senate. Mr. Jeff Carr.
Thank you, Chair Banducci, fellow trustees, presidents Cap and assembled guests. The Senate has nothing really to report. We did not have a December meeting, and our January meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. So I'll just remind everyone, we have a very busy meeting tomorrow. We have 5 new policy/procedures to look at, including the faculty professional development procedure, the filling of vacant positions without benefits policy, the transfer of classified employees, policy establishment of new position policy and procedure, as well as the filling of new and vacant positions policy and procedure. We also have some old business that we'll have to approve as well, the Office of Finance and Facilities Operations policy, the employment of related parties policy, and the professional consulting policy. I have no further items to report. Are there any questions?
You have some stuff to do.
Yep.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Carr? Jeff, I don't see any. Thank you. And sorry about the timing. We had to move the meeting up this month because of next week being JFAC and going to Boise.
The world doesn't revolve around.
Yes, indeed. Next on the agenda item is President's report.
I'm going to give them a second. second.
Okay.
Chairman Banducci, trustees, guests. Yesterday, we had the Northwest Commission Colleges and Universities virtual fact-finding visit. I wish to start off by thanking Dr. Kurtz for all his work and the work of the Executive Accreditation Committee for preparing the college for this visit. I'd also like to thank our trustees, our faculty, our staff, students, for taking the time to participate in the different forum and be heard. When we receive the feedback from this visit and are allowed to share it with all of you, we'll post it on the President's page to ensure full transparency. On January 4th, we held Convocation, and it was a blast. And I appreciate welcoming back the faculty and staff with the comments and the tone that were set up by VP Sarah Garcia and Interim Provost Cassie Silvas. As Nick President, Cyrus, you did an amazing job as the MC. You made the trivia lively and fun. Folks enjoyed it, and it was nice to hear laughter amongst the crowd at Schuler. And thank you for your efforts with that. Last week, students were back on campus for the spring semester. I appreciate the work that Student Services did to get this semester off to a great start. Interim Dean of Enrollment Services, Tammy Haft, and her team, as well as Alex Harris and the Student Life team, came in on a Saturday to ensure that our students were ready to rock and roll on the first day. The NWAC basketball season was to resume on Saturday. Walla Walla called it off with an athletic pause over on their campus. But our men did get to play on Monday, and they traveled to Blue Mountain, and they won on a buzzer beater. The wrestling team had a solid weekend and finished 4th at the NJCA duels. Next week, I'll be in Boise for a Higher Education Week with a presentation before the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee and the House and Senate Education Committees. Trustees Mckenzie and Chair Banducci, along with Interim VP Sarah Garcia and Chief Communications and Government Relations Officer Laurel Rumpel will join me to represent NIC. I was also in Boise last week with the other community colleges presidents, and we met with Speaker Bedke. Our elected legislators value the work that the community colleges do in the state for all Idahoans. I believe the legislature will support the governor's recommendations for all 4 of our community colleges, and the support is there for local authority to remain as the main oversight of the community colleges. President's Cabinet has continued to monitor what is going on with the latest variant of the coronavirus, and our crisis response team met yesterday evening to review the latest information from Panhandle Health District regarding the spike in COVID positivity in our region and within our employees and students. We are continuing to adapt and plan to make sure we continue to give our community and students the best learning experiences necessary while also ensuring the safety of all with the tools the institution has at our disposal. On Saturday, the recommendation was made through the Council of the Children's Center leadership, Alex Harris and Cassie Silvas, to me to close the Children's Center through January 25th, which I made the board aware of on Saturday. This allows us to reduce the spread of illness during this peak time. Over the next several days, we will begin staff rotations in offices to allow for additional physical distancing and reduce the overall footprint on campus and have portions of teams working remotely. This allows us to protect the welfare of our employees and ensure that we continue to have an on-campus presence of services. We will, next week, begin to pivot some instructional methods to remote, while allowing for flexibility for labs, athletics, health professions, Parker Technical Education Center, and workforce training to continue to meet with increased physical distancing measures in place. We will again reduce on-campus events to 50% capacity and temporarily cancel public tours. The measures will be revisited at the beginning of February as we navigate the current surge and hope to return to in-person instructional delivery by February 7th. Again, we're planning this shift as a temporary measure for about 2 weeks. We will begin multiple communication methods to faculty, staff, and students starting tomorrow as we adapt our continuity of operations. Thank you for your time, and I will stand for questions.
All right. Trustees, are there any questions for President Sabali?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Wood.
Dr. Sabali, I certainly appreciate any efforts you're making to mitigate the exposure to COVID and the effect on our faculty, our students, our staff. My question is really going to be, I guess, to College Attorney Mark Lyon. Can you, with the policy that was adopted the September meeting, maybe August meeting, there's been a lot going on, do we have to give the president authority to make these kind of changes? I believe that that policy removed operational authority from him. I certainly would support it, but I want to know if we need to go through that motion.
Trustee Wood, Chairman Banducci, Trustee Wood, the short answer is I'm not entirely sure on that, and let me say it this way. What I encouraged the board to do months ago was to flesh out the policy that we're required as a board, that your board is required to adopt so that we cover these contingencies. I know this situation is also occurring on other community colleges, and in my discussions with legal counsel at other community colleges, what they are doing is the administration is doing what is needed when it has to react quickly, and the board then has typically been asked to ratify those actions. So that may be an appropriate thing to do. But again, I would also encourage the board and the administration to work together to flesh out a more in-depth policy related to the infectious disease responses.
Mr. Chair? Chair.
You.
I was first.
He was.
Trustee McKenzie.
I would just like to read the ending of that policy. Actions taken by the administration in this regard are therefore reviewable by the Board of Trustees. So I interpret that in policy. I don't need a legal education on that. Actions taken by the administration, they are afforded the ability to take action, and it's reviewable by the Board of Trustees.
Trustee Howard.
Thank you. My position has been and still is that we don't have a policy. When we adopted the policy that was just referred to, it was really to get rid of the mandatory wearing of masks, but was not substituted with any other meaningful policy. The statute requires us to create a policy to reduce the risk or the likelihood of the transmission of communicable diseases. We haven't done that. What we've done is we've defaulted to saying, we're not going to do anything, let the administration do something, and then we'll second guess them. That doesn't give guidance to the administration. I will applaud Dr. Sabali with regard to the fact that he's taken the initiative to try and do some things in order to reduce the transmission, but they're taking place after the fact when we're already closing the Children's Center. How many faculty and staff are now in isolation, Dr. Sabali?
Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we had 50 that were there yesterday, 10 more that were maybe going. Is that correct?
60 with that 50 and 10 faculty and staff.
So what we have now is we have a condition on the campus where we're getting infections and we're having people go into isolation and we're having to respond after the fact. And without any guidance from the board, quite frankly, as to what the authority is, not just of the administration, but also of those instructors who are dealing with these factors in class and how they can respond to it and what their authority is. We've, quite frankly, I believe we're in direct violation of the statute because we haven't created a policy that addresses those items, and we have to do that. And I would ask, quite frankly, that finally that this board direct the administration to draft a policy, a proposed policy that would help them address these issues as they arise in the future, and not wait for being second-guessed by the trustees.
Trustee Mckenzie.
I would just like to read the policy, some more of it. It's rather interesting that it doesn't reduce infectious disease when it says right in it. Authorities of a community health emergency. The NIC administration may take preventive measures to reduce the risk to the community, including but not limiting, restricting access and campus and resources. So having a procedure that can adapt quickly to the needs sounds to me more wise. And everyone, I believe that policy is headed back our way after we referred it for feedback already. And Ken, you're welcome to always propose a policy. So that's what I have to say, is that our policy does prevent the measures. And I also like to say that I understand people don't like it when this board exercises its statutory role of oversight. I feel like that's what this whole past year has been about, is board oversight, and this board is actually doing its job now with the change of election from last year. So I agree with our legislature who represent the people that these decisions should be reviewable by the board. I commend Dr. Sabali for communicating with us prior and not having to read about it after the fact.
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Howard.
Thank you. The statute that you referred to indicates that the policy should be made in conjunction with consultation with the local health authorities. We didn't do that. We don't have any kind of a meaningful policy, in my judgment. And I think that what we do need to do is move forward in a meaningful way of establishing a policy that is more than second guessing. So I don't believe that we've met neither the letter nor the spirit of the statute.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Wood.
I'd also like to remind the board that we have a policy on developing policy that we did not follow. And trustees don't propose policy. We don't write policy. Trustees approve policy. We can give our input, but we don't write policy. So I would like to start all over again, make sure we follow the policy on policy, and developing the policy that comes before us to adhere to what the statute requires.
Well, I don't want to be argumentative, but we seem to have avoided our own policies then when we tried to do the board conduct policy, which was only generated by the board, and we did not have the other constituency groups, which is something I had talked about, and I talked about rerouting it through all the constituency groups. So we did have a policy where we did violate our policy, and we did not run it through everybody. So I don't know, I guess maybe that was just a unique exception.
Mr. Chair.
The other thing is, after listening to Trustee Howard and Trustee Mckenzie, it does raise a question in my mind, is the issue the policy or the creation of the appropriate procedure to implement that policy? As I understand it, the policy at the macro level, the 10,000-foot level, is to provide some guardrails, some parameters, and it's the procedure that's to put the specifics into it and the actual how it's implemented. So we have a policy. I guess we can still redo the policy, but it seems really it's the matter of the procedure. And that would seem to me that it would be written in a way that aligns with how the administration has been acting and reacting to the situation on the ground on a daily basis as it evolves. So there's got to be enough flexibility in that procedure with options, different levels of response. It can be implemented, if possible, some criteria that triggers those particular levels of response. But it seems to me it's a procedure that needs to be fleshed out that's consistent with how we've been approaching based on the CDC standards and the quarantine, whether it's 10 days or 5 days, whether you're symptomatic, whether you're asymptomatic, understanding that that's been a very dynamic process that's literally at times changed daily. So it's, I don't see how a policy captures that. I think the procedure, but then it'd have to be at the operational level as it's implemented.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Wood?
I don't disagree with you on procedure. We should certainly have it go through the policy committee on procedure. But we're talking about, I think, a little bit two different things. The policy itself, we didn't follow state law by working with Panhandle Health to create the policy. And the policy that you referenced, board conduct policy, is squarely a board policy. That does not require being subject to the policy on policy. The communicable disease policy is subject to the policy on developing policy. So I think we have to start over, include the constituent groups. As you said, be very careful with the procedure. We don't develop procedure or approve procedure as a board, but we would certainly be presented with the procedure so we can be comfortable with it. And then we also make sure we build in those flexibilities that give the operational administrative team the ability to mitigate communicable disease, especially the COVID.
If I may.
Trustee Mckenzie?
I just heard a lot of opinion on what should go through the Senate based off of 2.01. I would just like to provide a fact that our accreditation action plan 10-point had an opinion that that policy should be referred to the Senate. So that's quite an interesting fact point.
Well, I guess I have a question for the trustees at this point. As we ponder this issue, we have an existing policy which we can certainly edit and amend and change, but I would still submit to you that we need the appropriate accompanying procedure which actually deals with this at the operational level. So are we going to ask the administration to be looking at the creation of a procedure that's consistent with the practices and policies that we've been following that can fall under the direction of the policy as is or as adjusted?
May I propose a compromise?
Okay. Trustee Mckenzie.
We, as a board, direct the president to draft a procedure that we can either have incorporate as a policy or keep as a procedure.
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Wood.
The appropriate channel is that the board refers this to the administration to work through the constituent groups, bring forward policy, and the constituent groups also develop procedure, and which the board will be shared the procedure, but this should all be directed to the administration, not to solely draft this, but to begin the process with the appropriate constituent groups.
Yeah, that's what I meant, to be clear. For a procedure.
Well, it seems, if I'm understanding, we were already reviewing the policy. So I guess we would look for some work on the accompanying procedure also.
We actually did get feedback already from the Senate on it.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Howard.
I would just echo, I think, what Trustee Wood said. I mean, the normal process is to create a policy, and then there are procedures that are developed in order to put that policy into a meaningful operation. So we need to develop the policy, and then the faculty and staff and the administration will put together a procedure in order to put that into operation. The way that policies are normally developed is there are proposals or drafts that, again, are first drafted and processed through the constituent groups, and then we pass on that policy or change it as we see fit. And then normally about the same time, the procedures are developed. So I think we're all talking about the same thing. We just need to get it done. And I guess I'll make a motion that we refer this matter to the appropriate constituent groups to create a draft policy for consideration by the trustees, as well as a procedure to put those into operation.
May I, before that second comes, say something?
There's no discussion until there's a second.
Well, we've been having discussions.
No, but he made a
We're in the Robert's Rules of Order now, so.
Yeah, no, there's been a motion made, Greg, just a moment.
And I would be happy to make the second day. It's not on the agenda. I'd rather just give direction as a board to the administration to move forward and develop policy.
Well, I have a question. Ken, are you proposing, we have, see, everybody keeps acting like we don't have a policy. We do have a policy. Now, you may or may not find that policy satisfactory. So the question is, are we revising the existing policy, or are you looking to create a new policy that would be in tandem to the other one? And potentially it could coincide with it, or it could be in conflict with it. So we have to be very careful since we have a policy in place. So if we're talking a revision of the existing policy, then while we're waiting, again, to be satisfied with where that policy goes before you would authorize the development of the procedure, then we would need to make some sort of statement or direction tonight, I think, that allows administration. I know Mr. Lyons expressed some was unsure maybe on some of this, but we do have review authority, as Trustee Mckenzie pointed out. So I think we need to direct, as a board, Dr. Sabali and his staff to continue to respond at an operational level in lieu of procedure at this time, while we revisit the existing policy that would then be revised, and then have an accompanying procedure or procedures, I would think one procedure would be adequate, be developed through the constituent groups through the regular process. But we do have a policy in place, so we're able to act with that at this time. We can give direction to the president to continue doing the things that they're doing as he described this evening, and then we can continue to revise. So I guess the question to you, Trustee Howard, is your proposal to take the existing policy and work with it, revise it, or are you looking for a brand-new policy that would be parallel to the one that's in existence?
That was to Howard. Yeah, sorry.
What did I say? Did I not say Howard?
No, you did.
Okay.
This is not rocket science.
No, but I understand your motion, sir.
What I'm asking is that we develop an appropriate policy and the procedures to go with it. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it an amendment. You can call it a new policy. I don't care what you call it. I don't think what we have is adequate. I don't think it meets the statute. I don't think we've consulted with Panhandle Health, so I have a difficulty with the content of it, but I don't care what you call it. It needs to be put in a proper form, and it needs to be fleshed out so that it's an appropriate policy. So I'm just asking that we be given a draft proposal that's been circulated through the appropriate authorities on campus, and that we address and look at that along with any procedures that are developed. Call it what you will.
Okay, I recognize your dissatisfaction with the current policy, so we can ask them to revisit that and revise it. Are we comfortable to give direction to Dr. Sabali and his staff to continue operating as they are at the operational level to respond and react?
I'd like to say something.
Trustee Mckenzie.
I do not know why we're debating that our August 26th actions on if they were following policy. We had this debate already, and it was decided, done, and settled at that board meeting. So I'd like to offer a friendly amendment that we improve that policy and provide guidance as Trustee Howard said, additional guidance as Trustee Howard.
Mr. Chair?
Do I have a second on that motion?
Just a moment.
Amending motion?
I have an
Amending motion.
I have an amending motion, so I need to know if I have a second on the amending motion.
Mr. Chair, I cannot second the motion. It's not on the agenda. I think we're all on the same page. I would like us to give direction to the administration to move forward revise it, however you'd like to
We can't have
call
debate
it,
right now with my motion.
and then comport with the state law and come back to the board as you've suggested, Mr.
You
Chair.
want us to admit that we did something wrong by this action, and that's
Mr.
wrong.
Chair.
Hold on.
I don't have
Stop,
a
stop,
second.
please.
There was no
please,
second.
Please. There was no second, so actually, Trustee Wood, I should have had you hold on to that thought for just a moment, please. Hold on, Trustee Mckenzie. Also, we still have a
No, I can't second.
amended motion that's been made, but I believe Mr. Lyons has an input here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not an action item for this meeting, so a motion on this is not appropriate. However, I do recall some months ago when the board was talking about this, the board was not necessarily in agreement on the motion itself. The board was on agreement that the administration should go forward and look at potential revisions to improvements to this policy. I think this board and every member here has given sufficient direction to the administration to go forward and perhaps come up with proposals so that this can come before the board for potential action, for adoption or amendment or a revisiting. So I would suggest that there not be any motions on that, on this, because it's not noticed for action, and that I would anticipate that the administration has received the direction that the board thinks they should.
Mr. Chair,
Just a moment, please.
I just want to withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you. That's where I was going to go. Trustee Mckenzie, would you withdraw your amended motion?
I withdraw my amended motion.
Because actually, I need to do that first, then Trustee Howard's withdrawn. Thank you. Is there any one of the other three trustees? I do not. Do any of you strenuously object to what Mr. Lyons just said, that the implication is there that we believe that the administration has heard us and that we would like them to go forth?
Yes.
Everybody okay? Okay. Thank you. Anything else for Dr. Sabali? This was all under the President's report, and per Mr. Lyons' accurate assessment, it was not an action item. It's all right, though. Good discussion. Anything else for Dr. Sabali? Anybody from down there? Christy, you okay?
Yep.
Okay. That's good. All right. Next thing on the agenda is the Foundation Liaison report. Trustee Mckenzie, please.
I would like to start off with a correction of my December 15th foundation report. I mistakenly identified what the really big house raffle pays for. I mistakenly said it pays for the learning laboratory and the construction at Parker, and rather it supports the carpentry program, which I was meant to referring to, and it helps offset the foundation's operating expenses. So I apologize for that mistake. So the NIC Foundation Board has scheduled its very popular annual Bon Appetit fundraising dinner and auction for March 18th this year. In October, this is passed, the Foundation Board's planned giving committee conducted a will planning workshop for employees and retirees of NIC. This is a statement that was through a miscommunication given to me before December 15th, but I feel it's appropriate to read now. This is a statement the Foundation released to the media recently. Founded in 1977, the North Idaho College Foundation, Incorporated, is a private, independent, charitable corporation governed by an all-volunteer board of directors comprised of civic-minded community leaders. Contributions and fiscal assets of the foundation are autonomous from North Idaho College. The foundation can confirm receipt of multiple communications from donors expressing concerns related to the actions of the Board of Trustees. So information related to donors and their support is protected and will not be released. The NIC Foundation is committed to continuing to provide scholarship support and program enrichment for students. And during the last academic year, over $1.7 million was provided to NIC by the foundation, with over $1.1 million distributed in 1,027 scholarship awards and nearly $600,000 for program enrichment. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Trustee Mckenzie on his foundation report? Trustee Howard.
Trustee Mckenzie, the report that you just read from was the release My understanding is that there's also information that's been released by the foundation that indicates that their funding is down 20% this year. Is that correct?
You're catching me blank on that. I can get back to you on.
It was
like-
discussed at the last meeting. You don't remember that?
I
You-
don't remember hearing.
Okay, if you don't remember it, that's fine. It's also my understanding that the legacy pledges are down, and the pledges are down $4.7 million. Do you remember that? You just didn't report this to us, and I want to make sure that,
You keep trying to say that I'm trying to hide something, sir.
No.
I will take your questions, and I will work with the foundation and get you your answers.
I'm not
So,
suggesting you're hiding anything. Don't be so defensive. I'm trying to get these facts out. If you,
I know, you said that last time, and I want to get all the information out there, but I do want to say this part, that the information related to donors and their support is protected and will not be released. And so I try and formulate what I say at this board meeting as a partnership with them. And if you want actual numbers, I will go to them and say, I want actual numbers, and I'm going to get yelled at, or I'm sorry, not yelled at, but like, basically, I will, they're watching this conversation, sir. So I will try and get you as much information as you need.
thank you.
The next agenda item is under unfinished business. It is under the topic of trustee residency, and it's Mr. Mark Lyons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have really anything to report. I have been in contact with the Attorney General's office, but at this point, and I anticipate that we will have something to go forward sometime in the future. I do not know when. This is a very busy time for the state with the legislature, and the Attorney General's office has been busy with a multitude of matters, but I am in communication at this point. However, I have nothing to report.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is to our tab 1. It's the third reading / action item of the revised employee benefits policy 3.02.17. Karen Hubbard. Thank you, Karen. And she's ready to go.
I am. Good evening, Chair Banducci, trustees. Tonight I'm presenting for a third reading, policy 3.02.17 on employee benefits, formerly titled fringe benefits. The initial version of this policy was reviewed by HR, Payroll, and President's Cabinet in the Senate, where it was approved. The version presented to you tonight includes additional content added based on the board's request during the second reading. The additions specify the major categories of benefits that the college will provide following the discussion that we had at the second reading. As this is the third reading of the policy, I'm requesting the board consider a motion to adopt the policy with the requested revisions.
All right, thank you. Board, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Wood.
I move to adopt revised employee benefit policy 3.02.17.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. We're open for discussion. Trustee Wood, it was your motion. You get the first crack at it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe we've had plenty of time to review the policy. It's been come back, this is the third time. I don't have any issues with the policy as proposed, and I'd like to move forward.
Any other comments or questions for Karen? I have a question. First, a statement. Thank you for what you added back. That was what I was looking for, or at least I was. I don't know everybody else, but so thank you for the adjustments that you made and for taking our feedback. I have one question. I did review, and I printed off the procedures, and I've got them here, and I looked at them both. And I had reviewed them previously, and I looked at them a couple more times, 17.1 and 17.2. And I have one question, and maybe it's not necessary. When we looked at the policy, in the very first paragraph, about in the middle of the black text, and it's what's stricken out, there's a spot there that talks about, that says, some employee positions are benefited while others are not. In general, North Idaho College employees who are employed 50% of full-time or greater for 5 months or more are entitled to participate in the North Idaho College Benefits Program. And then it kind of goes on from there. And as an employer myself, I understand the difference between seasonal employees, part-time employees, full-time employees, and the different designations. I have to work with my HR people and my payroll folks and all the rest of that. When I looked at the two procedures, I didn't see anywhere where that definition of what a full-time employee was, I don't see it anywhere else. It's not in either of the procedures unless I missed it. Do you not feel that that definition of what a full-time employee is necessary for this, or do you think it's just self-evident? I don't know. I'm just asking the question, because to me, or maybe that's not accurate anymore. I don't know. Because I thought that was interesting to kind of, at the very start, say, here's what qualifies for benefits, and then here are the benefits that we offer. And then furthermore, then the procedures talk about employee and then retiree benefits. So so anyway, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Chair Banducci. You're correct. That portion, that language, that definition of a benefits eligible employee was struck from this policy because it's included in our employee, I believe it's employee classifications policy that was reviewed maybe just last year and approved by the board. And that lays out all of those definitions, including what qualifies as a benefits eligible employee. It's not significantly different than this, so the definition has not changed really in any way. One of the things that we're trying to do as we go through and update our policies is remove redundancies.
Redundancy, yeah.
And ensure that, that those definitions are included in one place. So,
well, you answered my question. Was it redundant and then streamlining not necessary?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Makes sense. Are there any other questions or comments on this? All right, we'll go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor of adoption of policy 3.02.17, please say aye.
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 Any nay? I think there's anybody left. Very good, it's passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Took us a while, Karen, but we got there. All right, the next item on the agenda is tab 2. It's the subject is auto reply message for the board at nic.edu emails. And Dr. Sabali, would you speak to that?
Yes. Laura Rumpler created, at your request, you guys asked us at the special meeting to come up with an auto reply for the Board of Trustees email. And in tab 2, you can see what we have suggested for you. This is a first reading. However, the board may choose to forego a second reading and consider a motion to adopt an automatic reply to email sent to board at nic.edu. I just want to make clear that this policy, this auto reply, does not stop trustees from responding. They are still able to respond and communicate with their constituents.
Are there any questions or comments for Dr. Sabali, or do I have any motions?
Oh,
No
Mr.
questions or
Chair?
comments? Yes, Trustee Wood.
No questions or comments. I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Trustee Wood. Motion to approve?
I move to approve the language created by the administration for the auto reply email.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Trustee Mckenzie seconds the motion. We are open for comment. Trustee Wood, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I'm perfectly satisfied with what the administration has proposed.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Trustee Howard.
Yes, I'm in a position where I can't support the motion simply because we seem to be eliminating the safety valve, which we've had for years, of having a first reading and a second reading. The first reading introducing whatever it is to the public and to people who may want to make comment. This is a fairly small matter, I agree. But the policies that we are abandoning now are moving on to passing something on a first reading rather than affording the opportunity to various groups to respond. And so I think that this should just wait for a second reading as we have done in the past, so that we have a procedure that allows input on items that are presented to us.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Thank
Trustee
you.
Wood. Hold on.
Thank you. Trustee Howard makes a good point. It does seem like a small matter that we could pass, but we do try to make sure we have a first reading and a second reading. So with that, I'm willing to withdraw my motion.
Well, I will comment. First off, I'd like to thank Laura for the work that she did on this. She took what former trustee Barnes had initiated, what he had generated, and she did some amendments and revisions, and I thought her final product is really good. I hear both Trustee Howard and Trustee Wood, and I guess I can make a case for both directions on this, although I have I guess a little bit of an overriding concern on this, because and I don't want to use the word trivial, but I believe this would be considered a non-controversial issue, and it's not something that, I mean, I got to be honest, if someone signed up for public comment, wanted to talk about our auto reply message for the email that says, hey, we got your email, we're going to respond, and it's going to be forwarded to the administration, I'd be really curious to know what the problem was with that and why it was an issue. So, and the other part is we are getting emails on a regular basis, and we're not going to have another meeting for about 5 weeks. And really, I'd like to institute this auto reply so that for the next 5 weeks, I don't have emails coming in and not getting the response. Now, for everybody who doesn't understand what's going on here, I'm going to read this, because I think that's important. And this is the draft language for an auto reply from the board at nic.edu. What it is the Board of Trustees has an email that people can submit comments and questions and requests and all that to. And it comes to all the trustees. Okay, and Shannon, I think, gets it too. Shannon, you see all those, correct? Yeah, so Shannon sees them, and then the 4 trustees. And then we can forward it to the staff, Dr. Sabali, Dr. Silvas, Sarah Garcia, Laura Rumpler, as appropriate, or whoever needs to be working on these things, depending on what it is. We have all sorts of different requests and things. So this is all that this says. It says, thank you for contacting the Board of Trustees of North Idaho College. Every trustee receives a copy of your email along with the clerk of the board, which is Shannon. While you may receive a personal response from an individual trustee, please know that the board cannot engage in any collective discussion with you or each other related to your communication due to the Idaho Open Public Meetings Law. Any discussion by the board may occur in a future public meeting. If you need assistance about an operational issue at the college, the chairman or a board member may refer your inquiry to the NIC President's Office to expedite a response. Thank you for your outreach. Trustees read the email sent to them and appreciate the opportunity to hear from the community they represent. Regards, Board of Trustees, North Idaho College.
Mr. Chair.
So we just want people to know we got the email. Yes, both of you are, who was first? I don't know, Trustee Howard.
We adopted Robert's Rules of Order, I think, to apply to these meetings. The motion was withdrawn. There is no basis for discussion until another motion has been made. So all of your discussion there was out of order. I didn't want to interrupt you, but...
I make a motion.
Sorry, I just wanted to share with the folks what we were talking about.
Yeah, but that's why we have Robert's Rules of Order.
No, you're correct, and I got the book, and I'm trying to remember.
I make a motion to open debate, sir, and maybe we get a second, and you can read your statement again.
No, that's okay. Do you make a motion to adopt this, Mr. Mckenzie?
I make a motion to adopt this.
Okay. I will second your motion so that we can have any continued discussion on this topic.
Mr. Chair?
Trustee Wood.
It is really a non-controversial thing, and so I don't want to be adversarial. But I will say to you that I was mistaken to make that motion on a first reading, because generally we try to move along on a first reading on something of real importance. It is not that important. That's why I withdrew my motion, and we can stick to our regular routine. I have a question for Mr. Lyon, and it's going to come up at some point in time anyway, Mr. Chair, so we might as well talk about it now. under Robert's rules, Mr. Lyon, can the chair second a motion?
As I've mentioned before, I'm not really a parliamentarian. However, my understanding is that in this board, in this setting, yes, the answer, that has always been the case, that any trustee can take action, either make a motion or second a motion. I have not seen anything in Robert's Rules of Order that would make that different, but again, if somebody else can point it out, I'm certainly more than welcome, or more than willing to look at it.
Dr. Sabali, I think you had your hand up.
If this helps the board move forward, this is a policy that only applies to the board. And when we have policies that only apply to the board, you don't need to seek the other constituent groups' input, just like Trustee Wood had said earlier on the board conduct policy. So something like this does not require it to go to the other constituent groups to provide feedback.
If I may, I did make the motion, I never got the privilege.
I apologize. You made the motion. You should have had the first crack at this.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Trustee Mckenzie,
Trying to have a court.
my mistake. Go ahead, please, sir.
This is board policy that only pertains to the board, I fully agree, and it does not require any other input from my understanding. And for those in this room who seem very unfamiliar with the policy on policies, I'm happy to read it here. Policies are adopted by the Board of Trustees and are intended to address the internal governance of the college. The principal vehicle for participation, Trustee Wood is correct in saying, is from college faculty, staff, and students is through the College Senate. Now, this is the important part everyone may want to pay attention to. The adoption, deletion, or revision of policies and procedures affecting the internal administration of the Board of Trustees and/or its relationship with the Office of the President is not subject to comment by either the Office of the President, who did just speak, or the College Senate. The adoption, deletion, and revision of these policies and procedures is reserved exclusively to the Board of Trustees.
Mr. Trustee, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Howard.
I don't know where this question came up about referring to any constituent groups. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether or not we pass it on first or second reading. That's the question.
So,
Mr. Chair.
I'm going to call you in a second. You know, ironically, Robert's Rules of Order says everybody gets 2 cracks at it, so I know we've exceeded that too. So before anybody calls me on that, we've already talked more than we normally would. Trustee Wood.
Well, I think we can continue discussion, but.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, I don't want this to be an adversarial topic, because I think in the end, we will all find it a useful tool. The question isn't whether it goes to the constituent groups. I think, and Trustee Howard can clarify this, the issue is passing something on first reading without allowing anyone to speak to it. It likely, as you said, Mr. Chair, will have no concerns, but we are in a practice of making sure we go through a first and second reading, and if public did want to comment, we would honor that process.
I have a question.
Trustee Mckenzie.
Has the public not had opportunity to make comment tonight? I believe. I'll answer my own rhetorical question where I believe they have, but I am willing to withdraw my motion. You can. I'm finished.
Well, here's my thought. Here's why I'm wondering. We had the special meeting on January 5th. And one of the topics, an action item on that meeting, was approve the automatic reply for the board email. And Trustee Barnes was the point of contact. So maybe this is not coded properly, because technically we did have a first action item on this, first reading, on the 5th of January. So I believe this would qualify as a second reading, because we did address that, and that was a public meeting, a special meeting on the 5th of January, and it was an agenda item. It was the second one on that agenda. So maybe that was an oversight when we developed this agenda, that should have said second reading instead of first.
And call for the question, please.
Call for the question, okay. Okay, the motion on the floor at this time is to adopt the auto reply message for the board at nic.edu emails. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
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 All right.
Mr. Chair? Again, I do think it'll be useful in the future, so my vote of nay is just to make sure we follow and respect first and second readings, and I'd like to see it on the next agenda.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the board response to letter from the Coeur d'Alene Tribe. What's that? I didn't say anything. Doesn't matter. Did I not announce? Okay, as I was reaching for water, I may have failed to say that that motion did fail, sorry. So to the tribe, Trustee Howard, the letter, response to the letter from the Coeur d'Alene Tribe to Trustee Howard.
I don't have any further comments. I approve of the letter.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
I don't have any difficulty with the letter. That's all.
With what we're seeing here?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. For those that aren't sure, we have a letter. Laura Rumpler has worked on this for us, and there were inputs from members of the Board of Trustees. Taking those inputs, Laura has revised it, and so here's where we're at. So this is our first reading, so I'm looking to see with what she has produced for us tonight, if there's any other comments or questions, additions, subtractions, whatever on this. And so Trustee Howard, you've just told me that you're comfortable with what you see.
Do we have a motion?
Trustee we don't have to have a motion. It's first reading.
Okay.
Trustee Mckenzie, Trustee Wood, do either of you have any inputs on this letter?
I think Laura did a nice job gathering input and putting together a good letter.
Okay. Trustee Mckenzie, do you have any input?
No, I don't.
Okay, then we will revisit this at the next board meeting. Laura, I also thought you did a great job. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, we're under the heading of new business now. The action is board goals for President Sabali. And what the board was asked to do, the individuals on the board, was to try to come up with a goal or goals that they would like to share for Dr. Sabali. And I don't know if there's any particular direction to go here. I'm just going to canvass each of the trustees individually. We can start with Trustee Wood, and then I guess if there's anything that's duplication, you could say, yeah, I like that one too, and and if you have something that's different, that might be helpful as we go down the list. So Trustee Wood, if you have something to share with Dr. Sabali, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to work on goals for Dr. Sabali. I have come up with 5, and I've prioritized them 1 through 5. Number 1 is I would ask Dr. Sabali to work with the board to address accreditation concerns. Number 2, I would like Dr. Sabali to focus on recruitment strategies for students. I'll speak slow so you can.
You're okay. Appreciate it.
And number 3, I would ask him to meet with business and industry and our high school counselors and consider priority programs, future programs for students.
Question, was that 2, like, and future programs for students, or to meet?
It's all the same. I want him to meet with all these groups to focus on future program needs.
Wait, sorry.
Number 4, I would like him to update the facilities priority needs and present that to the board. And number 5, I would like him to provide to the board a continuation of our 3-year financial plan.
Dr. Sabali, do you have any questions on any of those for clarification or?
Nope, I
Anything else?
totally understand.
Okay. Trustee Howard, how about you go next, sir?
Thank you. I really don't have anything to add because the two things that I have really are covered within Trustee Wood's request.
Okay, thank you, sir. Trustee Mckenzie?
I thought Trustee Wood covered a lot very well, and I just want to just say, well done. I've listed dorms and foods accessibility at Parker Technical Center. That seems, talked to a couple people, and that seems to be a need, but that seems covered under the update the facility and priority needs. So I'm thrilled with that. I do a second motion for that. I know some of our buildings here, namely the theater, are not ADA compliant, and that's, again, the same topic. I would say there's one that came out with the court ruling just recently about our students are able to receive corporate sponsorship. And it's a unique one. Just explore, not give guidance, but explore possibilities. I don't know if that's even possible.
Are you talking about the NIL for athletes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that applies to us or not. And
for those who don't understand, that's the names, image, and licensing. It's like when you see Drew Timme now on the commercial for Northern Quest. College athletes are allowed to be compensated for their likeness and for advertisements and things like that, which prior had been not allowed under the NCAA rules.
The hard thing on that one is the institution can create a policy on that, but based on the rules of that, the institution is not allowed to help students get that. They have to do that on their own.
oh, okay. Well, then that solves it. Well done, fast. Yeah, I thought Trustee Wood did a great job.
And I would understand what Dr. Sabali said, that would be considered an inducement for potential recruiting and other things, retention. So we're not allowed to advocate or engage in that. Under
May I do one more?
Trustee Mckenzie.
I would, to make our benefits package ideas to incentivize hard-to-fill positions that report to the board, maybe recommendations.
So are you looking for a compensation study? Are you looking for us to maybe change the scale for certain positions like CTE and nursing?
Maybe a recommendation to my recommendation from the committee. The first thing that comes to mind would be introducing a pay differential for positions, but whatever topic you and company that you decide.
To be honest, I'd rather not see us necessarily have to commission another wage study or anything like that, but maybe Karen can glean some of that from, for us through her experience of what it's going to take to fill some of these hard-to-fill roles as we compete with industry for folks. Because there are certainly positions that are a challenge to fill, the better the economy. I think anybody trying to get a nurse right now is struggling anywhere, whether as an educator or as a nurse practicing. The nursing degrees are becoming more and more valuable.
I'm finished.
Are you done, Trustee Mckenzie? I had just three things, and both Trustee Wood and Trustee Mckenzie touched on it. I want to refine it just slightly. I'd be interested with the amount of land and space that we have, even considering what that might look like for housing at Parker. And I don't know if that's dorm style or apartment style or whatever. And as we investigate that, the question then would be, if we built that and we'd have that for students and everybody else, would we also, if we didn't have it full with students, if we built something, could we use that for non-students? Rentals are at a premium. We have a lot of property. There's money to build, it seems. So something to, again, more and more to help Parker be a little more self-sufficient, I guess, in all the different respects, whether it be food or housing or whatever. I know there's an initiative that's underway, and I know there's work that's being done by both Laura and Maureen. I'd love to see us continue to provide the local media with positive news about NIC. Let them know about our successes and the great work that's being done here, and shine the light on individuals. I don't know if Sean's still here or not, but there was a nice article on Sean, our athletic director, and we've had other people highlighted and some of the successes and former graduates and whether it be in different fields of study or athletics or whatever. So I'd like to see us continue to feed those things to the local media and the spokesman, the press, and tout our achievements and our positive aspects. And the last kind of dovetails with that. I think we're in the mindset to improve and continue to build on community relations. And I don't want to put too much into this. There was a time where we had board meetings in Rathdrum. There was a time we had a board meeting down at the tribal headquarters down there. We've had meetings with the different cities and different places as part of our outreach to communities. We had one up in Sandpoint. So maybe down the road that might be appropriate, but I just want us to continue working on building these relations with legislators. We had our legislative send-off, but in the past our relationship with our legislators hadn't been terribly strong. We had the best turnout we've had in a while, and a couple people show up that we'd never seen before on campus. That was a big step forward, I think. Strengthening with Coeur d'Alene Tribe. I think Dr. Sabali actually is meeting with Chief Allen, or is working on trying to meet with Chief Allen.
Working on it.
Certainly our industry partners, as we try to figure out what we can do to meet their needs. And again, just the local communities, because we do want their support. And we've closed down a couple of our outreach centers. So I think we need to make sure people like Kellogg and Wallace and Mullen and Bonners Ferry and Priest River, wherever, let them know we still are here to support them and encourage them to, whether it's going to Sandpoint or coming to here or whatever, but just to keep the communities knowing that we're aware of their existence and that we want to try to support them however we can. It's just been very challenging the last couple, 3 years. And that was a lot. We just gave you a lot of stuff, so see where we can go from there. Trustee Wood.
Mr. Chair, you touched on something that drilled down a little bit on one of mine was facilities priority, and you drilled down to the Parker Center. And I would just like to go a little bit further, if I could. There are opportunities for partnerships, and what I would like to see, if we're going to give him this direction, I would like to see him meeting with area partners such as the City of Coeur d'Alene that is working on adopting solutions and possibly other partnerships for professional workforce housing. And it doesn't really matter where the housing would be located, whether it's within the city or maybe college-owned land. I would just like to see those kind of connections made and those conversations flushed out to see if there is possibility for partnerships.
And not to to jump ahead of the deal, but we will hear from Sarah later. And part of that discussion will lead to our relationship with the Dormitory Housing Commission and other things, and then what's available at the state. I think the positive thing of all of this right now is we're in an interesting position where the state has a surplus right now. There's some money down there. In the old days, we'd say the state is flush. And they are looking, I think, to be generous to the community colleges and support us. They believe in our mission and our work. President Sabali shared with me just briefly his meeting with Speaker Bedke, but it sounded like it was extremely positive, and that he and the others are very supportive of what we're doing up here. And I think some of the other colleges got some funds, facilities money, and so, and we got a little bit too. So there's some opportunities out there, maybe in a unique window right now, if we have some vision and see where we might want to go. Anything else on the goals for the president? Either of you two gentlemen down there? Okay.
I had two, and I can only remember one, and I was writing them down. But
Trustee Mckenzie.
I would like to publicly express that I would like to receive updates as you deem appropriate on the AERO program and what is envisioned, which may even include shuttering the program. But that I believe was put on hold, and I care about that program.
Actually, I do too, so I appreciate that input. Dr. Sabali, Dr. Silvas, everybody's been typing and writing. Any questions or anything from anybody? Any clarification? Sarah, you're writing away too. Anything we can do for you?
I appreciate the board taking time to give direction and setting their goals for me and for my team and the institution. I wrote a couple down too, just in case you guys suggested them or suggested some from me, and you guys hit on almost everything that I had. My first one was accreditation. Infrastructure capital improvements was number 2. Strengthening and empowering leadership at management and admin levels was number 3. Statewide community engagement, government relations was my 4th one. And my 5th one was strategic enrollment management. So I'm thankful that we're all rowing in the same direction here and moving forward with a plan.
All right. I think we've covered that item. The next item under new business is an action item, schedule board accreditation workshop. And Trustee Wood, that is under your name.
Can we take a 10-minute recess?
You know what? That's not a bad idea. What time is it? Yeah, why don't we take a break and reconvene at 8 o'clock? Just shy of 10 minutes. All right, everyone, we're ready to resume the meeting. We are under new business, and the next agenda item is listed as Schedule Board Accreditation Workshop, and Trustee Wood will address that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would first like to take the opportunity to thank the NWCCU for the thoughtful interviews they conducted yesterday. I think it was professional and well done. I think probably everyone that had an opportunity to speak felt that their input was respected and received well. I think we won't know, I guess I do know, we won't know, at least maybe till the end of February, what could come of their discussions. I want to be prepared for that. I would like this board to plan a workshop probably shortly after we receive comments from them, and plan to really come up with great strategies on how to meet perhaps what their requirements will be of us. If it's not necessary, we can always cancel it later, but I just certainly want to get it on the agenda that this board will schedule a workshop to focus on accreditation.
Okay. I'm looking for the schedule that Dr. Sabali.
Oh, I should say, Mr. Chair, that I would actually ask Dr. Sabali to work with our board clerk and maybe calendar that item for all of us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because right now we really are kind of in a sort of kind of time frame, because I know they're going to give us a report, and then we have 5 days or 7 days after that, and it's 5 or 7 to give us a report, then we can respond, and then they do something else. I think it's 7. Sorry, I'm looking for the sheet. I've got it right here, sorry. So we have the team fact-finding visit, January 18th, then the NWCCU team submits a report with 7 days after the site visit, and then we're allowed 7 days to submit any corrections of fact to the team report, and then after that they have it, and then we await their report decision at that point. So they were here, that's the 25th, that's February 2nd, so we're into sometime in February. So are you looking to make a motion, or maybe just do we direct the Dr. Sabali and his staff that after we get a response back, would they reach out to the board and see about scheduling a workshop as appropriate, if it's appropriate, if they deem that we need to do that? As
That's correct.
part of our response.
Just a direction. I don't believe we need a motion.
Okay. To the other trustees on the end, do you have any comments, questions, concerns, problems with that? Are you guys okay with that?
It's a good idea.
Okay. Greg? Trustee Mckenzie? Okay. All right, so everybody's satisfied that we're providing direction to Dr. Sabali as a board and his staff when we get back the second time we get back the response from the NWCCU.
I guess I do feel this could be just rather redundant, because if they're going to provide us information, if they felt that that was naturally appropriate, I would believe that it would be proposed. So, I mean, I don't think.
Greg, maybe I didn't communicate that clearly. Christy, help me out if I'm not articulating your point here, your position. I don't think it was about getting feedback from them, Greg, per se. I think we're going to get feedback from them after it comes back after the first week, and we have our 7 days to respond. And then we're going to get feedback, obviously, when that final report comes in. I think the question is, if the administration deems it appropriate, that we're going to give them the ability to schedule a workshop, including us, if we think that that would be helpful. Am I getting that?
Yeah, I just want to calendar it. If we deem it not necessary, we can cancel it, but I want to plan in advance.
Okay. So when you say calendar, do you want us to try to come up with a specific date right now, or do you want us to hold off until we have because we'd be looking at a bit of an unknown. We'd have to target it to mid or late February, I'm guessing. Does that sound right, Dr. Sabali? Any other inputs from staff on that timing? Steve Kurtz is not here, I don't believe. He'd probably be our subject matter expert on that with the best idea.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think we should be prepared when we get the initial report, and then if we have an opportunity to respond, I just think we should be prepared that we might have to come together to respond. And so that could be the first part of February. I just want to make sure that we're all focused on the fact that we may need to come together and we prepare for it.
Would it suffice, okay, I'm gonna ask for your,
Dr. Kurtz has reached out to me, and
Okay,
he'd
please.
suggest that we'd go after the second report.
so wait. Christy, would it suffice you to leave that in the hands of Dr. Kurtz and Dr. Sabali after they've seen stuff to reach out and look at the timeline to come back to us to try to schedule that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I just think we have enough unknowns right now to be kind of throwing a dart in the dark to hit the board on the calendar. Okay, so Dr. Sabali, do you have any questions regarding that direction from the board? And is there any other comments down here from you two gentlemen? Okay. All right, I think that's where we're going to leave that. And in case anybody's wondering, I've got part of what can happen in results and such. That's what I'm referencing. Okay, next item on the agenda is,
Take one, pass them down, please.
yes. If you would, sir, would you take one and pass it down? The next item on the agenda is tab 3 in our book, action item. It's labeled as the trustee zone 5 vacancy. It does have my name next to it, but I am going to defer to Dr. Sabali.
So
Sir.
what I just shared with our trustees and our attorney is a suggested advertisement, an ad. I'm asking that the board direct the administration to publicize the vacancy and request letters of interest for the seat by a specified date. I did leave that date blank on the ad that I've just shared with you. This seat will, they'll serve until the November 22 election, and at that election, they will serve out the remainder of the Zone 5 term, which ends in November 2024.
Which would stand for election again.
Okay. Along with setting the date for the letters, I would ask that the board also schedule a meeting or a deadline for candidates to be interviewed by the board and for the board to select an interim trustee.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Wood.
I would like to let us give people 2 weeks from today to submit a letter of interest. And then also in this advertisement, if we could incorporate what Dr. Sabali just suggested, because they should be prepared that they will be doing formal public interviews with the board.
All right.
And we could incorporate a date if we have, we might have to ask our clerk to calendar that as well.
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Howard.
Yeah, the submission of the letters of interest, I think is appropriate for 2 weeks. I would like to set the interviews for our next meeting so that we have an opportunity. I think we have a fairly light agenda so far, so that we can interview and make a selection if appropriate. The other suggestion I have is, while this letter or advertisement suggests that Zone 5 boundaries can be determined by reference to the maps, our experience in the past has been sometimes people reside so close to the boundaries that we've had people think that they're in a zone and not be in a zone. So to the extent that people make submissions, I think we need to be prepared as they come in to check their address against the zones so that, and if they don't live in the zone, let them know. And just confirm it, because again, these zones aren't necessarily straight lines. They go through neighborhoods, and sometimes people think they're in a zone and they're not. And we have to have a way of confirming that.
Okay. That begs 2 questions in my mind. Chris Martin was the clerk of the board, but once the elections had run their course, then he generally referred anything along that line back to the Kootenai County elections folks. So the question would be, who would be acting in that capacity here at the campus? And then secondly, would we here on campus do that checking, or would we go to the folks at the Kootenai County Elections Commission and have them do the search according to their software and their, because they're the official who is and who isn't in the districts. Dr. Sabali, do you have any thoughts on that? Who might serve in that role and who would potentially do the coordination with the folks down at the county? 'Cause I think that would, where that would have to be done for the check. Sort of like how Christy even had to take the signatures down when we submitted them for candidates to have them check those and addresses.
I saw Shannon nodding on that we would check those addresses through Sarah.
Oh, yeah, please, come on up, Shannon. Thank you.
Chair Banducci and trustees, I can just speak to the last two times that we've done this, and when there were questions by community members that wanted to know if they actually lived in the zone, they would call the president's office typically, or they would call the college, they would call Chris's office, whoever, and we would then help them confirm. We never did consult the county to do that, but we could confirm based on our map and maps, actual maps, whether or not they live in the zone, and then notify them that way. That's the way we've done it in the past.
Okay, so we have that capability and we're comfortable with doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Shannon? Sorry, let me make sure. Christy, anything? Ken? Greg? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so
Mr. Chair?
Trustee Wood.
Trustee Howard suggested that we interview at the next meeting. I think that would be fine if we could schedule some time, depending on how many candidates, a couple hours before our board meeting. I believe the next meeting is February 23rd. Maybe Shannon can confirm that. Yes, it is. So I think that probably makes the most sense. We already usually block out time for those days, and so maybe we could just meet a little earlier for interviews.
All right, we could tentatively shoot for that. Again, we'll see how many letters of interest we have. If there's 3, that's easy. If there's 23, we may have to rethink. I do have a couple questions, but I don't want to usurp anybody else. Does anybody else down there have any questions or comments on this real quick? My questions will be fast. First off, how are we going to advertise this? Coeur d'Alene Press, social media, spokesman review, all the usual suspects on our website? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
these people have to come from Zone 5.
Yes, sir.
And so I think we need to find a method of getting to the people in Zone 5, not necessarily the people in Spokane. And Coeur d'Alene Press covers part of that territory. I'm not sure it covers all of it. So we may need some local.
Well, that'll be an interesting challenge, because Zone 5, as you well know, comes off of Athol, comes up at Spirit Lake, comes around to Twin Lakes and northern Rathdrum and all that, which is pretty rural. So there are no publication that I'm aware of that's dedicated to that area. So we're going to have to piggyback on something that's going to have a broader scope, as far as I know. But maybe I'm wrong. Laura, you look like you have a thought?
Chair Banducci, trustees, interim president Sabali. We will leverage a variety of different ways to communicate out to folks. Just off the top of my head, when you were discussing this and I was looking at the map, and Trustee Wood had mentioned partnerships earlier tonight as well. We'll reach out to the regional chambers too, up in Rathdrum, and the municipalities. Oftentimes they have abilities to put in notices and share public information. So we'll leverage a variety of different mediums and methods, including the regional newspapers and such to get information out. I know there's been quite a lot of attention on North Idaho College recently, so I'm sure that there will be many folks that will be interested in gleaning information, and we'll leverage all the different channels that we have the opportunity to do so.
All right, anything else? I have one question on the wording. It may not be a big deal, but it says the successful appointee will serve until the November 2022 election and is eligible to run as a candidate in 2022. And it says if elected, the person will serve for the remainder of term for Trustee Zone 5, which ends in November of 2024. I almost would think that we've talked about in 2022, and then the language would almost say, and whoever's elected for this seat in 2022 will serve the remainder, because it's not just that that person is elected in 2022, it's whoever's elected in 2022, because it will be an open election. So the language there, I'm wordsmithing a little bit, but it looks like if I'm the person that gets appointed, I serve until the November 2022 election, and then if I'm elected, then I serve the remainder of the term for Zone 5. So maybe the wording could be just slightly different.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think that it's necessary they understand that their term would only be till 2024. So somehow we need to help people understand if they are going to stand for election, that they would only be there for 2 more years.
Well, and that they do have to face election this fall to boot.
Correct.
So the interim position is only going to be for a matter of months. And then whoever is elected in November to get us back on the cycle, their normal cycle is 2024, so they'd have to stand for election again 2 years later.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes, Trustee Wood.
Generally, we do encourage candidates that are going to apply to understand we encourage them to run for election and finish out the term. I think that's why it's important we put that in there. We're not looking for someone to hang around for just 6 months or so. We would like them to commit to running for election.
I think my wordsmithing would be very minor, and maybe it's unnecessary, but after it says is eligible to run as a candidate in 2022, then my next thing would say is whoever is elected, that person will serve for the remainder of term for Trustee Zone 5, which ends in November of 2024. So very simple wordsmith, just a couple words. Not that I'm the best at parsing the English language, but
I think that's
Yeah.
that's a good
If we get a date certain for when the applications or letters of interest are to be submitted by?
I think we were looking at 2 weeks from today. Was that what we were considering?
Yeah, but what date is that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
February 2nd.
February 2nd? Okay.
I'm looking at staff at this point. Is there any problem with that date? Any reason we think there's any problems with that date in 2 weeks? Laura, please.
May I make a recommendation to get attention awareness out and to be able to, over the next couple of days, send the information out to a variety of different sources that we can leverage? May I make a recommendation that you change that to Friday the 4th? That would just give us a couple of more days. It keeps it pretty tight, but just allows us to leverage a few more days, and that will give you plenty of time to be able to do the necessary review and preparation for your next board meeting.
Well, let me ask a question. How long do we need, if we have 2 weeks between, I'm just throwing a number out, say we went to the 9th, we gave 3 weeks, that gives you an extra number of days, week to even get the information out. If we had it back by the 9th, the meeting's on the 23rd. Is there a reason why 2 weeks wouldn't be adequate at that point to know where we're at and how many applications we have? So unless anybody objects, I would propose the 9th, 3 weeks. That's a pretty reasonable number, and that gives us 2 weeks before the board meeting. That would give Laura a little more time to try to utilize as many sources as she can for distribution and dissemination. Everybody okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
Greg?
Yep.
Christy?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would move a formal motion to adopt the language presented by the administration, filling in 2 weeks, actually 3 weeks, would be February 9th is the date. I want to add to that in the announcement that there will be formal public interviews scheduled for February 23rd.
May I ask you to add to your motion for a moment, so I don't have to amend it? And the slight change of language of the if whoever is elected, that person will serve for the remainder of the term.
Yes, that's fine.
How about the successful candidate?
However you want to phrase it. Spirit and intent, you can wordsmith it. You understand what I'm trying to convey.
Yeah, that's
There's a
my
motion, I second it.
Okay, we had a motion. Mark, you're smiling. I know you're writing.
I don't-
Christy, why don't we stop and breathe for just a second and have you restate your motion as you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
Okay?
I move that we adopt the language prepared by administration with the wordsmithing recommended by the board chair, and the date that applications will be turned in by is February 9th. We will also add to this notification that formal public interviews will be conducted by the board on February 23rd.
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Christy, anything else you'd like to add at your motion?
Nope.
Can I call for the question?
Could I ask you to hold that for just 10 seconds?
Sure.
I have one quick question. And I don't know if this is to be part of the motion, but just for a quick discussion. How do I want to do this? We're scheduled to do the interviews on the 23rd. Hopefully, we're not going to have a number of people that does not allow for us to do that in whatever time we can come up with. So do we need any backdoor? I don't think we're going to have that many candidates. So we should be okay. Do I need any backdoor on that with the motion? That's tentatively planned for the 23rd or scheduled to be on the 23rd? Maybe that's just language that's unnecessary. I don't know. Christy?
Mr. Chair, I think we should schedule it, and if we find ourselves with lots of candidates, we'll just schedule another meeting at the board meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just clarification. I think the motion goes to what is going to, the notice that is going to be sent out to potential applicants, so that's in there. If we actually need to make adjustments, I think the flexibility is still there.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we could adjust it as a...
Can I call the question now?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you.
And you called the question?
I did.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. And the motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is an action item. The action is to appoint a new board liaison to the Kootenai Technical Education Campus, K-Tec. I will start that off. I had been the liaison for about 5 years, and I handed that off to Trustee Barnes and stayed kind of as his backup as necessary. With Trustee Barnes no longer on the board, I want to open it up again, and I will pose the question to the other 3 trustees to start with. Do I have interest from someone to be that liaison?
Mr. Chair, I'd be willing to serve in that role.
Okay. Trustee Wood is interested in serving as board liaison to K-Tec. Is there anyone else that's interested? Okay, I don't see any. I think that's it. Let's see. Can't make a motion to nominate yourself.
I'll make a motion to nominate Christy Wood as liaison to K-Tec.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right. All those in, well, no, I'm going to stop a minute. Ken, you made the motion. Sorry, sir. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or discussions from any other trustees? All right, sounds pretty quiet. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Christy, I can do this formally, or I can offer to be a backup to you if you'd like.
Sure.
Not that you'll probably ever need it, but if you, just because I'm familiar with it, and it's easy for me to be of assistance
Okay.
as appropriate. All right, thank you, Trustee Wood. Do you need, either the administration or I could provide you with contact information? The director's Colby Mattia, and get you plugged into those folks so we can get you the agenda and all the information, so.
Great, thank you.
Work on that. Okay, let's see. We come to informational items, Dormitory Housing Commission. Sarah, please. And facilities discussion.
Good evening, Chair Banducci, Trustees Wood, Mckenzie, and Howard, Dr. Savali, and guests. My understanding is at the last meeting you requested a little bit of additional information after our Moody's rating came out in the middle of December. As I believe you know, they reaffirmed both the college's rating as well as the bond rating on the existing outstanding bonds. The one change that we had was that Moody's downgraded our outlook to a negative outlook, citing governance issues as the main reason for their concern because of the potential instability it could cause in enrollment that would then impact the revenue stream to repay those bonds. I did consult with our financial advisor, Eric Herringer, who has worked with public entities throughout the state of Idaho for many, many years, and he said really the impact of that change in outlook will have a 0.1 to a 0.25% impact on our future bond. As long as that outlook remains negative, it will have that level of impact on future bond issues, as well as any potential refinancing of the existing bonds. So as of today, we have $8.1 million outstanding in bonds, about $300,000 final payment on our residence hall bonds is due this spring, and then we have $7,880,000 outstanding principal on the Student Wellness and Recreation Center. Those bonds are not callable until, let me make sure I get the date right here, November 1st, 2025.
Thank you. For anybody's wondering, I had asked that question.
So they are not callable. We cannot do anything with those bonds until that time. And this rating outlook could have an impact on the net gain from refinancing the bonds if it remains negative. I will pause there if you have any additional questions specifically about the DHC at this time, but.
Does anybody have any questions? Trustee Howard.
Sarah, the bonds are paid from the proceeds of the students' fees, is that correct?
That is correct.
They're not an obligation of NIC particularly?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there anything about our attendance records or that sort of thing, because we've had a declining attendance, that's going to impact our ability to meet those, or the students are going to have the opportunity, that will impact the students meeting those obligations?
I do not believe so at this time. With the kind of release on the pressure valve of the residence hall bonds being paid off, the revenues from that residence hall are co-pledged along with a student fee to satisfy the debt service. So we have not just that fee, but also the pledged revenues from the residence hall that will assist us with that. We also have a strong fund balance, but Moody's would like us not to continue to use the fund balance to meet our coverage ratio. So, you know, we're okay right now, especially with the reduction in the overall debt.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a question. this is something you've heard me ask before, but I'm not sure I've really still understood the answer. And for full disclosure, I was never a fan of the Student Wellness and Recreation Center, and I voted against it, so just for full disclosure. And I look at that, and I think, I'm a student. I'm in class all day, and when can I go to someplace? I can go after school or I can go on the weekends. And my understanding is that Student Wellness and Recreation Center is closed in the evenings and on the weekends. So now I'm looking at, okay, who's using it and how are we utilizing it? Then I understand that really our athletic teams aren't utilizing it like I had envisioned that we would, at least from my understanding, and I can certainly be corrected on that. I thought it'd be an alternate gym and added resource. I want to know, I guess, to my satisfaction is, how much money are we losing on that thing? And who's utilizing it, and how much utilization do we actually have? And what can we do to make that a more viable facility and have more operating hours so the students can take advantage of what they're paying for? I already have too many students that are in locations that can't even use it, whether it be Sandpoint or Parker or whatever. And for those I have on the campus that are paying that money, I mean, we laughed when we passed this. I said, guys, I'm fighting for $5 and you just build yourself 100. And that was just, so I stopped fighting for the $5 at that point, as I was trying to work on student fees. Because they, and of course, there's this many students and that many voted on it, really. So what do we do with this thing? And how much money are we losing? And it feels like a bit of an albatross around our neck.
So, Chair Banducci, Board of Trustees, the challenge is that with the way that the bonds are structured, the student population at large has first right of refusal at all times on the use of the facility. I would adjust your statement that the athletes cannot use the facility. They absolutely can use the facility. They are not allowed to reserve the facility and use it for team training.
I know, which would be the direction I would
It's important when you're talking about the legal documents of the structure of the bond.
Appropriate distinction.
And in order to maintain the tax exempt status of the bonds, we have to continue to only allow students and faculty and staff to use the facility. So there are constraints in the bond documents that require us to do that. Part of the bond proceeds actually do support the operations of the center, and so I didn't know that it's really a matter of doing a profit and loss statement on the center itself. Steve McGrody in Auxiliary Services has, as part of the reorganization, is now reporting to me. And so I am working closely with him on tracking the finances of the DHC, and we have some work to do this spring as we try to look at the forecast for next fiscal year and start preparing the budget for next fiscal year for the DHC operations as a whole, with the residence hall bonds getting paid off. And the rec center bonds will now start having principal and interest payments both. So the debt service on that facility itself will go up, but we'll lower it down on the other side. So we have some work to do on figuring that all out.
You bet. And no, this is nothing to you. You just have to be the person standing there answering the questions.
I get it.
You and I have worked together for 9 years, so this isn't your baby per se. It's just.
I get it.
You're who I can ask the question.
Absolutely.
So please don't take any of it personally. I guess the other question I would have is, do we have a sense, or can we get a sense if we don't, as to what are the student desires and needs, and what could be the potential utilization? I mean, have we been able to get enough of a cross-section or a poll of them, or I don't know, survey that says, hey, if we're open on Saturdays, will you use it? If we're open on Sundays, will you use it? If you're open in the evening at 6 or 7, will you use it? We're supposed to, again, not at you, but we want to be student-centric.
Mr.
And it's
Chair,
their
Cassie.
facility. I know, I see.
She
I'm
has a
getting there.
response.
Go ahead. I was done, actually, and I saw Cassie waving at me.
Thank you, Chair Banducci. Our ASNC president is in here, and actually ASNC did conduct a survey
Okay.
to find out the best utilization times for students, faculty, and staff, and I don't know if you would like, I'm putting you on the spot, if you'd like to
Are you okay to
report
speak
on
to that?
really quickly. Okay, we'll
Okay.
give him a minute,
If
and then
you
you
don't
can
mind.
come to the microphone.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for that?
Yes.
May I comment?
Trustee Wood.
I would just like to, if we're going to revisit that whole idea of how it came about, I want to really strongly stress that this was brought forward by ASNIC. It was an ASNIC-initiated project paid for by ASNIC. Sometimes whether board members agree with it or not doesn't mean it's not a good idea. I do think it's a wonderful thing for ASNIC to have. And I guess I wouldn't characterize it an albatross as you did. I think it's a wonderful facility, and it isn't something that our direct budget is on the hook for. This is paid for with student fees.
Fair enough, and I do that from a fiduciary standpoint, because that's what I am every day. So I looked at it strictly from a financial standpoint, that there is a burden there, and I made the point just for full disclosure, so that people didn't think I was trying to submarine anything. It's just, this is where I've been asking the questions all along.
I have a response I'd like to say.
Dr. Sabali.
He can go
sir?
first. He can go first.
Okay, Trustee Mckenzie.
If anyone thinks that the full cost of tuition at this college doesn't interplay with other parts of this college, I would say that that's a wrong assertion. When people look at the full cost to attend this college, the student fees are fully a part of that. So to say that, yes, respect constituent groups and opinions, and when they raise their voice, absolutely they're heard, but that's this board's role, is to provide oversight and make sure that albatrosses aren't unfairly allowed to happen.
Mr. Chair?
Just a moment. I have Dr. Sabali next, please.
Interim Dean Harris is willing to answer some of the questions that you guys had on the usage and stuff, and he knows that since it's in his area of expertise. So I wanted to offer him a chance to be able to come up to the podium and answer your question.
Okay, very good. Trustee Wood, just a moment, I'll come right to you. Sarah, are you okay if I do a question here and then have Alex interject? Or are you at a natural segue, or do we let you finish the thought?
I am pleased to do whatever the board feels works best for them. So
Okay.
I'm happy to step aside and
All right.
allow
I
you to
didn't want-
continue this
We've
conversation.
kind of broken your rhythm here.
It's all right.
Trustee Wood.
Thank you. And I would just respond to that there was board oversight when the decision was made. It was brought to the board several times after lots of homework done by the students, and the students had made it clear. They understood what the fees would be going forward, and it would be separate from their tuition. So it is not an albatross, and there was board oversight.
If I may, I guess we have.
On that note, Alex.
Thank you, Chairman Banducci. I have heard many of the questions posed tonight and can tell you that in my 2-week term as interim dean of students and my work with our Director of Athletics and Recreation, who you met tonight, it has been on the top of our list of priority to expand the usage. I actually requested the study that the students commissioned, survey of students, received that information last week, had a meeting with our Athletic and Recreations Director about that, requested more data to come out of the rec center because they have a system which they can pull that on usage hours and numbers and all those things, with knowing full well that Athletic and Recreation Director Sean has a lot of experience in running student recreation centers on campus. And since my tenure here has been since the beginning of when the students brought this up in 2003 and went through the process with them, I'm confident in our ability to assess the situation. If the board wants an information item in one of the next 2 board meetings or whenever, I'm happy to put together a presentation with Sean, with Cassie's permission, of course, and let you know where we are, where we want to go, and what we plan on doing. I like to look at it as an opportunity. COVID has affected it. The more students taking online classes has affected it. Change in leadership of that has affected it. We did have a full-time director when the bond was passed. That no longer is there. That has affected it. So there are a lot of things that I'm happy to cue the board in on what we're working on, and because we are well aware that it's an underutilized gem on our campus. So
Appreciate that, Alex, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Sure, Trustee Howard.
This is just a little bit by way of background, because I think it can be very confusing. It was to me. The Dorm Housing Commission is a separate legal entity. They are the ones that authorize the building of these buildings. They're built on NIC property, but the title to the buildings and the obligations in the bonds are through the Dorm Housing Commission. And the Dorm Housing Commission came to us and said, we have students, and there was a student survey that said they wanted this. And so what our position was to say, yes, we will put on the student activity fees, a amount to pay these bonds back. But that was the limit of our involvement in it. We don't own those buildings, and we won't own them, and we don't have any financial obligation to them. I can tell you, once they're paid off, though, under the lease agreements that we have, then the title to those buildings reverts to NIC. But during the period of time that the lease is in effect and the bonds are paying off, we don't own those buildings. We don't have responsibility for legal payments. Dorm Housing Commission does. These are all valid inquiries that we're making now, because we are in a position of trust of trying to make that facility being used to its best possible use. So this is a valid discussion that we're having. I don't mean to undermine that. I just want to put into perspective that NIC doesn't have legal obligation with regard to these buildings. Dorm Housing Commission does, and the bonds have to be paid off through student funds.
Ken, if I may make one addition to what you said, because it's a germane point also. Everything you said was correct, but there is one more part that we did play in that. For them to build that building, we had to give them the ground to do it. So we have to allow them to use the ground.
We leased the ground to them.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but we still have to make it available and allow them to use it, whether it's a lease or whatever. So that was a decision we had to make. Did it fit in the footprint? Did it fit in the master plan of the context of the college and what we were all doing? So we had to determine if that space, if that was the right use for that space. So that was something that the board had to agree to. I just point that out. That was part of our role in the oversight. Before Cyrus, or should I have him go first with what you want to tell us? He's going to give us the results of the
If he's ready, he can go.
If you're ready, please.
Yeah, so we had about 350 responses to our survey. We found that the majority of the reason that people weren't going to this work was due based
Can you please go to the podium so we can hear you on the recording?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. The voice from above.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know who that was coming from. Yes, so we had 350 responses to our survey. We found that the majority of the hindrances of going to this work came from the hours of operation or people just simply not knowing that they had membership to it. So, and on top of that, we also found that a large number of students, let me get the number for you, at least from the ones that responded, we had close to 300 that said that if it was open on weekends, they'd be more likely to go. So we found, based on our survey, that the majority of the non-usage of that facility is just because of the time that it is open. And so after bringing that up to the facility, if that were to change, I believe that there would be a much larger usage of that facility. But at least that's based on what we got from our results, from the students, staff, and faculty that took it.
Well, if you extrapolate that, that's less than 10% of our student body. And if the percentages continue, then yeah, we'd probably see a substantial increase in usage if we had expanded hours. That would make sense.
I'm not sure. Is there anything else you want to know from the survey?
I don't know if we have any other questions. Is there anything that you feel appropriate to share from that? I'll leave that to your discretion.
Majority of people wanted it open on Saturdays, but
Okay,
I don't know, that's super important, so.
all right, thank you for sharing. Thank you, Cyrus.
Something to say?
All right, very good.
Chair Banducci. Oh, if you
One,
wanna-
one moment, please, and I'll come right back to you. Alex, was there anything else that you needed to add, or are you good? All right, thank you, sir. Trustee McKenzie.
I would just like to say that this building's Student Wellness and Recreational Center, it may have originated from ASNIC, but ASNIC is mentored by college administrators. And paying $35 million for a building that should cost $8 million may look good on a resume, but is the oversight this board should be watching out for taxpayer dollars.
Sarah, are you ready to continue?
I am.
Thank you.
Chair Banducci, if you'll allow me to just mention that the next opportunity that the DHC will have to address that will be at the call date for the rec center bonds, as I mentioned, which will be in November of 2025.
All right.
The other piece that I was going to share with you is that at JFAC next week, as part of the governor's recommended budget, the Permanent Building Advisory Fund Committee is recommending to fund 2 projects for North Idaho College. The first project is $2.8 million to support, to redevelop the, sorry, I'm reading from my notes because it's existing Headland Bay diesel bays into a collaborative space that will support entrepreneurship and innovation, programming, and to create a space for the larger community to meet and learn and discuss entrepreneurship. That cost is based on an estimate from last year, so there is a strong possibility that the actual cost of the project could be higher because, as we all know, the cost of materials and the CPI is increasing significantly, so we would have to do a look at that and see what the additional cost would be and figure out how we're going to cover those additional costs.
Sarah, do we have any provision that we could go back and ask for a little more if we understated?
I don't honestly.
That's a tough question just to give you right now.
Alex has been doing his job for 2 weeks. I've been doing
Fair enough.
this level of job for 2 days. So,
Well, that might be something we, something we can investigate.
I probably should know that answer, but I would prefer not to give you an erroneous.
I apologize. Normally, I don't ask a question unless I know you know the answer.
I appreciate that. In addition, there's included a $525,000 for an aviation hangar for the aerospace apprenticeship program. I am aware that Dr. Silvas and Dr. Savali had a conversation this week or last week with Patrick O'Halloran, who is working on the aerospace program. So Pat has requested a meeting as well to discuss exactly what's entailed in this, if this does get appropriated, how that money works and what it can fund, and so we'll have a conversation about that.
Okay.
The only other piece I will mention is if we do get the funding for the Headland space, we will need to work to have a conversation about what we will do, because softball is currently using those diesel bays for a practice area, as well as the soccer teams, I believe.
Yeah.
So we will need to find a solution for them.
Part of the facilities, yeah, they have it as a batting cage, I believe, in an infield or something. They were using it like an AstroTurf field and they're at soccer. Sarah, have we, this is a little bit to the side of this, but we had been given some money on several occasions recently because of the money coming to the state. Have we already received the money that's going to be used for the extra costs that were involved with the remodel to the Meyer Center? Because we had the structural parts of it all, but then there was the, what's inside costs. Did I understand we were getting some money to help with that, to finish off that project?
I'll have to look into that one for you.
Okay.
I cannot answer that one right now.
Okay.
I apologize.
I may not have understood that correctly, but I got the impression that maybe the state had gifted us some money to help us finish that project off.
I mean, we are paying for the Meyer expansion project out of our capital investment reserve. And so that was not a state-funded project for
Right.
us to do. And we are working on buying the furniture and some of the equipment for that as well, but we are using college funds for
Okay,
that.
and I might have misunderstood that, so that's why I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Thank you. Trustees, any other questions for
No,
Sarah?
can we move on?
I believe so, if she's done presenting.
I'm done, if you're satisfied with the conversation.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ken, if you want to move really fast, it's Board Chair Report next.
Good, go for it.
This meeting is adjourned.
There's another item on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, for the good of the order. Guess we'll see if we have something good.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, do you not have a report at all?
No, I'll give Ken my 5 minutes.
Well, I have a question then, under the board chair report. If I could hear from the two of you, a status on the presidential search.
How about it goes to the next agenda item, Christy? It's late. If you
I'm
want-
sorry, Greg, I would ask that we hear a status on the presidential search, and if you'd like
Well,
to
then you
leave,
should have put it on the agenda.
it's under the board chair report, and if you'd like to leave, you're welcome to.
It's not.
Mr. Chair.
Well, actually, the Board Chair Report is my report if I choose to report on something. I chose not to report on something. Does somebody have any remarks for the good of the order?
All right, under good of the order, Mr. Chair, the two of you co-chair a presidential search committee. Could you give us an update on the status of the presidential search?
You look like you were ready to talk. Go ahead.
Well, I'm happy to do that. We had a meeting with our consultant, the Poly Group, and went through some preliminary planning of establishing some background information we need to get together. We're going to have a citizens committee. It's going to consist of a number of groups that have not been totally identified yet, but they would include groups on the college, within the college campus, as well as the community at large, business and medicine and that sort of thing. That's under development. We also talked about the fact that we're starting to develop the qualifications to be advertised with regard to the president. And we set another meeting for, I think it was February 28th, actually.
I believe that's correct.
And unfortunately, it's getting stretched out because of scheduling issues. The chair's been very busy and wasn't able to make it until the 28th, but hopefully we'll be able to move things along more rapidly.
Trustee Howard, you mean January 28th? I hope you don't mean February 28th. You will meet again on January 28th?
Correct.
Okay, and then I would hope at the next meeting, you would be able to drill down on when we will select our constituent groups. It's really imperative that the two of you find time. And if the two of you can't find time, at least we have two co-chairs, so the majority of the constituent groups could still meet. We cannot try to calendar around two chairs. So if we at least have one, the constituent groups need to move forward.
And I would hope that that's the way we proceed, that if both chairs can't be present at each event, that at least one of us can.
Well, I believe that should be the instructions to staff. There's no consideration that one chair has precedence over the other. We make every accommodation and hope that everyone can make it, but this is crucial. Our constituent groups on campus are ready to move forward. Our community groups are waiting to be formed, and we have to move forward and take the necessary steps. And so I would ask that our clerk be sure to calendar with our HR director and move forward with at least one chair and move forward on these meetings.
Christy, I don't think we need your direction. I think we have two board co-chairs, and we're working on it, so thank you for your input.
Well, I am a board
Can I just read
member.
one thing since
We're under remarks for the good of the order.
this part of the agenda
Follow your
is
direction,
not to
please.
seek board action, which
It's
we
not.
just witnessed.
Well,
Have a good day. Let's go to bed.
Meeting is adjourned.
Well, that's just incredible, Mr. Chair.
We're off the reservation there. We're done.
Follow policy, people, is what we recommend.
That's just